Welcome to Nacht Waffen Pilot with Penny Bradley. Today's guest is Marina Seren, and I had a short bio for her that I have to pull back up because I forgot. Hey, we all know that I'm not perfect, or at least most people know I'm not perfect. I just admit it. So, okay. Marina's bio is Marina Seren is a psychic medium, conscious channeler, ET contactee / abductee, experiencer of hybrid programs, secret space program, psychic super soldier / insider, and MK Ultra monarch survivor. Well, that's quite a list. Welcome, Serena. I keep calling you Serena in my mind. I'm sorry. Marina. So, yeah. I've seen you, before you were public here.
Yes.
And a lot of that stuff, we were both in Misha Johnston's support group.
Yes.
And all of that information is private, and I will not share any of that. What you wish to talk about here is completely up to you.
Sure.
I tend to go to Misha's group on those days when I need to see human faces, when I need to be one of the kids, because so many people think of me in terms of space mama, or I'm supposed to be the person that they bounce everything off of, and I'm dealing with my own memories. I have days whenever all I want to do is cry. And so I go to Misha's group those days, just so people know. Misha Johnston does a great set of support groups for different people related to satanic ritual abuse, to SSP, to Montauk kids, to monarch survivors, which is what Misha was. And she also does star seeds, and I guess you're calling them hybrids. There are a lot of us who were hybridized by the Black Ops. I was one of those. Because I was hybridized physically with my DNA, a different kind of soul was able to come into my body than would normally be in a human body. So I'm sure that's part of what your story is. I have mentioned it before that the agency who hybridized me used alpha draconian DNA with me. They were looking for people who had draconian type psionic abilities. And that was their entire goal. And they got what they wanted because I was able to replace a Draco on a ship as a navigator. Some folks ask why I'm so valuable in these programs. It's because I replace a Draco on a ship. So you know which species you're hybridized with?
Yes, I'm hybridized with gray DNA. in the space program.
Okay, so you're part of the Zeta hybridization program?
Yes, but I quit it because they attacked me.
Well, that sucks.
Yes.
So, what was their reasoning for attacking you?
Because they support this idea that these children that are made with gray DNA on ships and everything, they are supposed to come here to the Earth, to the surface, and then mix with us and replace us, like create another species. And I support humanity. So I like the natural evolution. I mean, it's okay to be hybridized like us, but I don't really prefer beings that are not us coming here and create another species to replace us.
Cool. That's exactly the attitude that I've got, is they shouldn't have been here in the first place. Homo sapiens has a lot of potential. Just everybody else get their fingers out of the pie and let them develop. So that's good to hear. So yeah, that's one of the problems that I've had dealing with other people are calling them star family, is that I really just want those guys to maintain a hands off and let humans develop.
I agree.
So that's one of the things I've tried to say in shows, and it's like people can't hear it. Oh, we want them to come and fix everything for us. But they don't understand that the Draco have an absolute monarchy.
Yeah.
The Jahami, the human looking ones that created humans in the first place, that they have an absolute monarchy. The mantids out there have a hive mind where the queen thinks for everybody. Do you really want those guys coming and fixing your planet? I mean, let's be real. Their ideas of what's good may not be what we think is good. We've been, over the last couple of centuries, humans on Earth have been working towards a more equal footing between classes, between genders, between races. We've been gradually working towards a more equal standing, rather than one group automatically being the boss of us. And I really think that that's a good thing.
Same.
I mean, if you look at the last 1,000 years, it's been all this fighting and killing, and over what? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting you off track. You have a story to tell, and we have just under 2 hours for you to tell it. So what do you remember about the Zetas?
I have different kinds of memories, because on one part I have the experiences in the hybrid programs, but on the other hand I am in the space program and I had contact with them, experiences that are negative. So I mean, generally speaking, my memories are not positive with the Zetas.
Okay. Mine with the Draco have been positive for me.
Mm.
So that has been one of the things that the public has had a hard time accepting, is because they have such a misunderstanding of who they are.
Yeah, and I agree.
And there's a misunderstanding about the Zetas too. And it's been watching from the perspective of being a Draco hybrid, looking at what the Zetas were trying to do, where according to the website Zeta Talk, they were promised that once the solar flash happened, that they would be in charge of Earth. And
Wow.
I'm thinking, who gave away our planet without asking us?
Right.
So that's been a big question mark in my head, is who gave away our planet without asking us? So the Draco have not wanted to take over Earth. If they wanted to, they would have millennia ago. So they've been just sort of sitting back, and there will be rogue Draco every so often that show up and go hunting here because they are a carnivore species. You know, they'll show up and go hunting here, but most of the time they just leave us alone. There was a particular Draco who hung out here for a while because he was farming us for adrenochrome, but he was executed in 2019 for violation of the prime. Humanity is under protection in the galactic circles because we're considered to be a developing race. So we're under protection, and anyone from a more advanced race who comes in and messes with us without consent, it's a death penalty. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, welcome Space Brothers. They don't realize they're giving anybody and everybody permission to come in.
I agree.
That whole CE5 scene, it scares the hell out of me because I know what's out there that they're inviting in.
Yes, I agree too. Like, people are thirsty for contact, and they are not mature yet to know how to discern who is a good candidate to get invited.
Yeah. You said you do channeling. I was subjected to the V2K.
Oh, yeah, I know what it is.
So I've had a hard time trusting channelers because I could not tell the difference between the V2K in my ears and the voices from other beings. So I started wearing a cap. Mine's kind of worn out, so it's really ugly looking right now. I wear it when I'm not on air. It's nickel embedded in nylon. And I wear it when I'm not on air, and it blocks the V2K.
Well, that's nice, because I also got like the B2K, and they will talk to me through the implant and like telepathically.
Yeah. And the V2K that I've been hit with is through the Wi-Fi carrier.
Oh, interesting.
So if you physically block the Wi-Fi, it physically blocks the voice. And so then I don't have to worry about it being the CIA. So I do hear extraterrestrials. I do hear disincarnates. I hear the people that Shane, the runner, calls the parents. Two of them in particular, I'm still hearing after he says they've left, but I still hear them. So there are a lot of things out there. How do you know who you're hearing.
Oh, because I'm not channeling ETs. I am channeling my higher mind, and it's not like the kind of channeling in which people go into a trance and they speak, words. The channeling that I do, it's closed, only focused only on spiritual guides or higher mind, and I don't allow I don't allow them to speak through me like automatically. I filter the information.
Okay. Yeah, when I was still Christian, there was a voice who would talk through my mouth, and I would hear a man's voice, but it would come out my mouth as me. And this particular, whatever it was, knew the Bible better than I did. And it was intimidating, but he would just take over. And at the time, he said he was Jesus, but that I eventually proved to myself he wasn't. And at that point, he became really nasty. So that voice has stopped with the blocker cap. So I'm pretty sure that it was V2K. What was amazing was the agent who activated my memories had the same voice, which made me wonder, had the computer voice that they use been based on his? Because I knew he wasn't sitting at a computer typing and talking to people. You're supposed to be talking here.
No, it's fine. We're having a conversation.
Okay. My audience has called me on this before, where I talk too much. So you're about how old?
21 years old.
Okay. And you're from what part
Spain.
of Spain?
Madrid.
Madrid. Okay. Public schools or private?
Semi-private schools.
Okay. So you got a better education than most. I notice you're wearing the symbol for the Quill Society. How long have you known about them?
Since 2016, when I met a German channeler who was really into the braille and the space program, because he will channel Dracos that will speak to SSP experiencers. So he introduced me to the society, but instantly for me was really familiar. And then when some years passed, in 2000, approximately last year, I was told that by SSP, by the Braille and the SSP members of the Alliance and all these. I'm not sure if they were part of the Alliance, but they were like not the dark fleet,
Mm-hmm.
They told me that I was a real medium in another incarnation. They told me that I had 2 incarnations in that period of time of, Second World War, and World War II, Second World War II, and First World War.
Okay.
So one of them.
They were not that far apart.
What?
The 2 world wars were not that far apart. They both were finished in 40 years. So if you were alive for one, you were probably alive for both.
Right.
Yeah. I had an incarnation during that time period. I was a German Jewish man who immigrated to America, and In the common parlance, he was a bit of a dick. So I don't name him because, yeah, he was a bit of a dick. So, yeah, but that's part of why I get upset when people just automatically assume that Nacht Waffen are Nazis, because they're not. They are German. They are Teutonic, which
Oh, yeah.
means they're military. They act tribal. They have an aggressive stance, but they also educate their people. They teach them poetry and music and literature, and they want their people to be able to think. They don't want robots.
Interesting.
And so they're not how most people are describing them. But my past life as a German Jew, I'm sitting here going, just because you were raised in a German culture, it doesn't mean you're a part of that party, and that's one of the things I get pushback from all the time, is because people, especially Americans, want the Germans in space to be Nazis. They want this to be a continuation of World War II, and it isn't. It had nothing to do with World War II. It had nothing to do with that political party. It was completely about, okay, I went to Schule on Mars with the Germans, and they taught me that for the last almost 3,000 years, that the German tribes were attacked by everybody, that they had genocide after genocide after genocide after genocide, where people were attacking them and trying to kill them, and that they had to be military to survive. And that the country that they were in, they couldn't grow enough food to feed all their kids. So they were literally selling their own sons into military service for other countries to be able to feed the ones still at home.
Wow.
And this is their background. They didn't leave because of World War II. They left because they wanted to find a place where they could feed everybody and live in peace. And they got out into space, and every square inch was already owned by somebody else, or in your terms, centimeters. So every square centimeter belonged to somebody else. The only way they could get a place to live was to make a deal with whoever already owned it. So they had to make a deal with the Draco to be able to get off Earth. So it wasn't that they wanted to ally with the baddest bitches out there. It was that those were the only people who would work with them. And the terms were really bad, really, really bad. And the Germans have been trying ever since to change the terms to something they could live with. And they eventually got it switched from literally giving people to become dinner to military service instead. They were used to military service to survive, so it was just a continuation of what they were used to. But yeah, they're frustrated. Every time they turn around, they're having to sell their kids into military service to have a place to live and food to eat. And that's why they went into space. And that's why they have continued farther into space, They have colonies in other galaxies simply to get away from everybody here. And when I say that, it sounds rational to me, but I get this pushback. So it's like the Germans can't be rational. They're just unthinking brute beasts. Well, if you look, classical music, most of the classical music played in the United States is written and performed by Germans.
Right.
You listen to epic poetry going back 1,500 years. I mean, the poets that wrote about the Nibelung kings, those were Germans. The epic poem about Hildebrand, who was in Italy, that was written by Germans. The reason that Spanish is different from French is because the Visigoths came into Spain. They were a German tribe. Their version of German mixed with the Latin that was there, and the result was Spanish.
Correct.
So, it's the German tribes came through 1,600 years ago. So, yeah. I have one line of ancestry through Spain, but they were in Barcelona, not Madrid. And the family's surname was Lopez.
A really common surname here, yes.
Yeah, and the king's daughter married into the Stuart family in Scotland, and that's why she is in my tree. So royals married daughters off everywhere. So then they would forget about where their girls were and wonder why so-and-so says they're related. But yeah. Regardless of what the Supreme Court says these days, women do matter. They matter in family trees, they matter in our lives, and they even matter in the secret space program because I survived it. So what do you remember from being in the SSP? What did you do?
I remember working as a physicist and being taught in classes about mathematics, physics, etc. And I also remember being trained, my psychic abilities being trained to be a super soldier, and they will eventually use me for whatever missions. I have memories being in Mars, in the cybernetic labs and all of that. And I also have memories of how they, let's say, put me into MK Ultra Monarch projects. So
okay.
That's yeah.
Have you had any missions that you remember?
Yes, I did have a mission in which they will abduct my astral body, and I will be put into like a bed, and I will go out of my body or use remote viewing, and I will start channeling for them information about the Russians specifically. And I will just give them information that I don't remember what kind of information it was, but that's the kind of missions that I remember being part of. And I also remember war scenarios, but I'm not sure if it's the same lifetime. Like, I was in my body, it was my super soldier abilities being used, but I don't know if if it's correct or not, because it's a memory that is really blurry. But we were basically fighting reptilians that were against the ones that we were working for. So there was
Yeah,
like
there's several species out there from different places.
yes.
Yeah, I'm constantly slapped upside of the head with the idea that only Draco are out there, and that's oversimplicity. There are at least 1,000 species of intelligent reptilians out there, and some of them look very reptile and some of them look almost human. And some of them, if you didn't know they were reptilian, you wouldn't know. And there's a lot out there. If I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be the Cassiopeans. They're human on top and snake on the bottom, and they're very classy looking. The human part of them had African type features. They're usually bald though, but they can be any skin color that you would expect from a reptilian. And so they're human down to the hips and snake from there down. And it's some of them are quite beautiful. So, but yeah, I've had several of those make contact with me in the last decade. So that probably sounds strange to people, but they are from Cassiopeia, the star system there. And they were like frontline shock troops whenever the Matra invaded. The Matra are from the Andromeda galaxy, and they are a type of gray. They're similar to Zetas, but taller, where most Zetas are 4 foot. Okay, European measures, they're about 1.5 meters.
Okay. Better.
Yeah, Zetas are about 1.5 meters. If they're under 1 meter, then they're androids rather than biological beings. Where the Matra are almost 2 meters. They're tall for a gray. And they're carnivores, which is very unusual for grays. Most grays will eat fish or chicken, but not really much. They're mostly towards the vegetables and fruit rather than meats, but they'll eat fish or chicken. Where the Matra are carnivores, and they will come in and they will decimate a system and eat everything. And when they leave, there's nothing left. But they're from the Andromeda galaxy. And people on Earth should be grateful because the Orion Queen and the Draco Queens combined forces to stop them. So these beings were stopped by reptilians. And I know that because Nacht Waffen assisted in that.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, as far as biological threats out there, the Matra are the worst. They are invaders from outside that came in, and they were stopped by these two reptilian empires uniting to fight them. Otherwise, Earth would have been eaten long ago. I lost track of what I was talking about, sorry. So you were part of figuring out what the reptilians were doing in Russia?
No, it was not the reptilians that were in Russia. It was some military group that they wanted to spy on. And so I asked them, why are you spying on them? Like, what's the matter? They didn't tell me specifically, but they said that the Greys were allied with the communist Russians or something, and that they were against that politics. So it was a group that I mean, it was a faction of the SSB, but not a general.
That surprises me, because the Russians haven't been communist since 1990.
Yeah, interesting.
So in a lot of ways, the Russian Federation is more capitalist than the United States is. So were you working with the Americans or with the Spanish?
No, they spoke Spanish, but I'm not sure if they are from another nation, because they can learn. They have technologies to learn or implement in their brain, in their mind, another language. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, my alters speak other languages. So I have alters that speak Spanish, Portuguese, French, Sicilian. Those are things that have popped out when I shifted, because I shift alters. So I've had times whenever I would suddenly start speaking in another language, and Lou would look at me, okay. He speaks English, a little bit of Spanish, and Vietnamese. So he would go, okay. And then whenever it would be me back, he would say, when did you learn to speak such and such? And I go, well, as far as I know, I don't. And he's like, okay. Me, Penny, Earth. I spoke Portuguese as a child. I speak English. I can read in German. I can read it out loud. But when I try to speak it, the words don't come. I have studied French. I can read and understand about half of it. I can read it out loud and other people know what I said. So I'm seeing it right. But again, the words don't come. And my Spanish, I know enough to get myself into a lot of trouble and not enough to get me out.
Interesting.
But I grew up in California, where half the people speak Spanish, but it's Mexican Spanish, not Spain Spanish. So I can go into the barrio and I know what I'm being told, and I know when it's dangerous, and I know when to get my butt out of there. So, but I treat people like I would like to be treated, and I don't usually have problems. So, back to what I was saying before about we have been working towards a more equal footing between people. And when you treat people well, they respond. I I just wish everybody knew that.
Yes.
We're working towards that. So that's my goal, is for everybody to understand, just treat each other with respect. And you don't have to agree on everything to treat each other well.
Agreed.
So okay. So you channel your higher self. You have memories of, were you remote viewing or were you bilocating?
I was remote viewing.
Okay. Because I don't remote view very well. I bilocate. And I get to the stage where sometimes they can see me. There was an incident with, I shouldn't use his name, but everybody knows who Agtelis is. And he was trapped in a tank. And I don't know, he was in the tank, but he was also on Twitter complaining about being in the tank. So I don't know if it was physical or astral. And so I went and pulled him out of the tank. And I could see him. And he knew someone had pulled him out, but I don't think he saw me. So that was a couple of years ago. But that's what I mean by locating. I'm not just sitting here and seeing it at a distance. I'm actually going there, whatever part of me that goes. So that's a distinction a lot of people don't make. They think they're the same thing and they're not. I used to get in trouble at Langley because I couldn't bilocate. Because I couldn't remote view. I got into a lot of trouble for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They wanted us to do it by the book, that you were given coordinates, that you would view the coordinates, that you would draw what you saw. And I couldn't do that. I can't do that. I have to actually take part of myself and go. And, you know, I can look around, give you all the information, tell you what I hear. But I can't stay in my body and look. I can't do that. You understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, because all of the remote viewing protocols are, you stay in your body, you check out the coordinates, which are usually made up anyway, but you connect to what they were looking at. Only you're not supposed to connect to the picture they were looking at. You were supposed to connect to the place. And you know, some people actually draw the picture that they were looking at when they made up the coordinates. So that's another level of this. So what do you do?
To me, the protocol is that I look into the coordinates, I connect to the place, and then I wait not for like a full picture, like a specific full picture to come into my mind, but rather start to be receptive to like characteristics about the place, like if it's the material of the ground or the building, or if there is water, or you know, like those sensations, and then slowly I note all the words and the ideas, and then I try to draw, like, to see what comes out of it.
Okay. Have you done a lot of it?
I mean, here, not really, but in the Secret Space Forum, my alters have done a lot of that and have been trained more seriously.
Okay. Well, you speak Spanish and English. What other languages do you speak?
A little bit of Russian and a little bit of German.
Do you have any memories of being with any particular group in the SSP? Because I've done counseling with people, and based on their memories, we've identified 6 different groups out there, and we know there are more.
Yes, I have memories with many different groups, but as I have memories with beings that have been in the disclosure, movement, like you, like Johann Fritz, like I have seen them in my memories. So I guess that in some of my missions, I was in the American Space Program, but the faction that I'm part of is the Spanish one. So I guess it wouldn't be the same.
Okay. Most of my memories are not with the Americans. Most of mine are with the Germans out there.
But yeah, I've been with the Germans too.
I keep being told that people remember me from Solar Warden.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't remember it. In fact, there's a group of folks that remember being on a ship with me, and they said that one day I got pissed at everybody and shaved my head and refused to interact with anybody. I do get into a mode where I cut my hair off. I don't shave it. I keep it about this long. American terms, I get it cut 3 inches long all over. That I don't know what that is in centimeters, but my hair is really curly when it's short, and it's really easy to take care of then. Right now, it's where I sit on it, and it tangles, and it's really hard to keep up with. But when it's this long, my telepathy skyrockets. That's one of the things that the Vrelia ladies talked about, was that your hair is antenna, and that the longer your hair is, the better your psychic abilities.
Right, I agree.
And when my hair is at my waist or longer, my telepathy is strong enough that I have to work at staying out of people's heads. Normals assume that they have privacy in their own minds. So I try to honor that. That way they don't see me as much of a threat. To be honest, most of what they think about is, okay, what do I hear from the neighbors? I hear I need to go to the bathroom. I'm hungry. What's in the fridge? What am I going to make? I'm horny. When's my partner coming home? And I don't hear it in words. I get it as a combination of angry, frustrated, body feelings. And depending on how intensely they're feeling it, how intensely I feel it, and it's like intrusive. It's distracting. It's especially if it's the same person that just keeps sending the same stuff out all the time. It's like, I don't even want to be around that person. So, yeah, I keep it shut off as much as possible. Unless I'm, at a conference where I'm surrounded by people, I will keep it as at a low level on, just so I get the warning if someone wants to be nasty. Because you never know what you're going to get when you're dealing with the public. I mean, you've experienced that already. I mean, you're public now. How long have you been public?
1 year approximately.
1 year approximately. And you've probably already been contacted by lots of people who want to dump all of their stories on you, and they get really angry if you don't have the time to spend 8 hours a day or longer listening to them. Yeah. And then when they get a chance to see you in person, it's like all that stuff. True? Yeah, it's like all that stuff, they have it in this psychic package and they just dump it on you. And if you don't have your shields up, guess what? You've been slimed. And they don't even think of it in those terms. They think of it in terms of they're sharing their information with you. True?
Well, I haven't had much experience yet with people. I mean, so far the interviewers were really nice to me, but it's true that some people, not interviewers, some people have been like that to me.
Okay. I've gotten to where I don't accept friend requests as a general rule, because that happens to me so much. And for some reason, the last 1.5 to 2 years, most of the people who sent me friend requests want to go public, but they don't have any memories. And they want me to tell them what they remembered. And I don't do readings anymore. You know, we can read people. You get into their head, you know everything about them if you want to. But the last time that I really connected with someone, it was a mission from the NSA. And I was supposed to bring in someone who was supposed to be killing NSA agents. And I told them I wasn't going to kill this person. And they said, well, we want you to talk her down so she stops killing people. I'm like, oh, all right. They said, act like a counselor. So I made the connection and found out she was a cyborg. And she had been assigned to kill me. It wasn't that she was a rogue agent at all. It was that she was an assassin.
I see.
And they had decided that I needed to be killed. And so at that point, I managed to get free of her. And I have not made a reading level connection with anybody since, because I don't want to be in that position again. where it's me or her. Out in space, I have killed way too many people. I don't want to do that anymore. I have enough blood on my hands. I don't want any more. So when you're doing what you do, I don't want you afraid, but I want you careful. Know that this can happen. So that's my mama talk for the day. Yeah, so yeah, I share my stories not to scare people, but I want the kidnapping of small children stopped. And I want the young people who are still active to be careful.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare people, but be careful. So, okay, we're about halfway through now. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Yes, we mentioned before about talking about the real or the Vrilja.
Mm-hmm.
People think that they are negative or parasites, and that's not true.
Oh, expand, because I got hit up by a woman earlier today before we came on. She asked who I was interviewing, and I said you, and she complained about your pendant. So, yeah, the Gesellschaften were aristocracy, and my understanding is that the men in these families were in Tula and the women were in Flill. But they were not as separate as folks think. An example, the Flill ladies were channeling the blueprints to create the Hanabu. And Maria Orsic, who I believe was Croatian.
Half Croatian, half Austrian.
Okay. She gave her dad the blueprints for an engine that he took to the Tula meeting and gave to Victor Schauberger. These two groups were meeting over the dinner table because they were in the same families. They may not have all had money, but they were all aristocracy bloodlines. And one of the things that I found was that the aristocracy is all descended from the Scythians.
Yes.
And the Scythians are the basis for, they are the ruling class from Iceland to North Korea for almost 3,000 years. Every ethnic group, their ruling class were Scythians, going back almost to Sumer. And these people were horseback like the Mongolians. and their ruling class had red hair, had super white skin and green eyes, and their peasant class were blonde and blue-eyed. These are the people who went everywhere. And they ended up, everywhere they went, they took over. And then they intermarried with the people they were ruling. So they eventually came to look like the people they were ruling. But if you look through their family tree, every one of them started off Scythian.
I agree.
And this is the big secret of history. And all of these tribes that everybody wants to think of as separate ethnicities, what they were was, if you're a horseback group and your population gets too big, you have to split so the horses have enough food. And so each time they split, they gave the group a different name and pretended they were another group. But the same basic rules applied. And this is the big secret of history, is that our entire ruling class through Eurasia were Scythians. That's the big secret that everybody wants to pretend it didn't happen. But the deeper you dig into it, the more alike these people become. So, yeah, you dig too far into that, and all of the social media who are censoring everything will shut you down. So be careful how much of that you share. No, I am not a racist or supremacist. I'm not saying these people were better. I'm saying that they ended up in charge. That, don't put words in my mouth, audience. So, yeah. Okay. So we still have about 45 minutes to go. So Tag, you're it.
What?
Oh, that's a children's game in the United States.
Oh.
It means it's your turn to talk.
Oh, sure. I just don't know where to shift the conversation. So
Okay. How long have you been aware that you were used in programs?
since 2016.
Okay. 2013 was when my memories were activated. And I used that precisely. I spent time with an NSA agent, and he kept using my remember code over and over. So I was deliberately activated. How did you get yours?
It was really intense because when I was remembering things from downloads, from DNA activations and everything, I had really positive experiences and everything, but suddenly I got images, like intense memory recall of images of me being a child and being tortured on laboratories and being experimented on. And the things that I saw at that moment were so terrific that I spent 5 years of my life dealing with PTSD. And not until 2020, I found out that those memories were from satanic ritual abuse and more project.
I don't want you to go through anything that's going to trigger you. But if you could explain some of it to the audience so they would have an idea of what you're talking about. And keep in mind, my audience is used to me, so, you know, they're a little more advanced than average.
Right. So, you know, the memories were those. I was in a laboratory and there were human doctors who were experimenting on me, and they were using like sharp instruments to get into my genitals, and they were humiliating me. They were making me sick. They were making me cry and yell, and they will just treat me like they will just be torturing me. And after I was screaming so high, then is when like some people came into the room and they started to I don't know what they were doing, but they were making me see things psychically, like things that are like disturbing about my life. Like, for example, they put my family in my head, and my family was torturing me, and they were attacking me, and they were part of this like sexual torture, and it was really disturbing to me as a child. And there was a reptilian who was not positive, and he was putting me into a how do you call this, a coffin. And I was there in a coffin, and I was awake, but I was not able to get out of the coffin for a long time. And then the rest of the memories that I remember is how I was in front of a monitor, and there were images that were not specific, but there were images, and I started to get programmed because I felt that the images were neutral, but my sexual energy was going up my spine. And then a military person came and said, "This is responding to the programming." And when I looked back, there was a man who were wearing a leather coat, and he came to me and observed me. And then parting from that, he started to talk to me and have conversations, and they started programming me, like creating altars and that. One of my altars is in the psychopathic spectrum, by the way.
I think all of us who have been through these have alters who are psychopaths.
Yes.
I think that is the intention. My higher self has warned me that in the process of my reintegration, that my earth cover altar has to stay dominant. She said that it's the only altar I have that has an ethical compass. So it's the only one that knows right from wrong. So it has to stay dominant so that my abilities are not used for bad. So
Makes sense.
that's scary though, because some of these altars that I've reintegrated are very strong persons. The first one that came up when we were in the reintegration process, she would toy with people, pick at them to get a response. And she dearly loved making people angry, making them embarrass themselves, making fools of people. And that was one of the things that I had to teach her not to do. And it was hard for her because she had been in this Teutonic military society where that had been encouraged. And suddenly she was in 21st century America, where, at least in my age group, women are still second-class citizens, and submission is generally expected. And she didn't know how to behave. And she kept getting me in trouble with everybody. It was like every time I turned around, she had gotten me in some sort of trouble. And now that we have been reintegrated, I guess about 5 years now, she understands why she had to change. And she has finally accepted the ethical compass. But it took this whole time to do it. You know, it's like you have an adult who thinks they know everything and has been quite successful at it, and they suddenly have to change. And they don't see the reason to, and then after a while, they finally get it. And I think the term that describes it best is culture shock, because 21st century California is not Nacht Waffen. You know, it just isn't. And so in my memories, it's like literally being in a different time and place and culture, and stepping out of that and into this and back and forth. And I think the hardest part for me, for Penny, is that when I'm in space, they keep me at age 25, and I will be I will be gone 60 years, and I've been age 25 the whole time I'm gone. And they bring me back to just after they took me. And then the next morning I look in the mirror and I'm in my 60s. You know, on Earth, you gradually get used to how you change over time. The change is gradual, you adapt to it, you adjust to it. But when you're 25 all night and then you're in your 60s, it's like immediate. And that's a bit of a shock to me every time. And it's to the point that my partner just says, don't look in the mirror. But you have to put on lipstick. You know? Yeah. Most of the time, lipstick's the only makeup I wear. So the rest of it makes me itch. And if you're itching and you scratch it and you smear it, it looks worse than no makeup at all. So that's part of why I wear the glasses on screen, is so you can't tell. Also, so I can see the person I'm talking to clearly, otherwise you're out of focus. So
Yeah, in my case, people think that I wear color contact lenses, and they say, you have black eyes. I don't have black eyes, they're brown. But because of the contrast of the camera, because it's bad quality, people think they're black, and that I put them on purpose to look ET, and that's not true.
Guys, I have blue-green eyes. They're not black. I do have dark circles under my eyes. That's allergies. Also, I have my days and nights backwards. So, but I have since I was a baby. So it is what it is. Some of us are just not the same as others, and it's okay. So if we all had to be the same, it would be awfully boring, wouldn't it?
I agree.
So I'm going to ask about your personal life because I'm running out of stuff to talk about. What's your personal faith?
My personal what?
Faith. Do you belong to a religion?
Faith. Yeah, I pronounce it differently.
Faith in English.
Yes, I know what it is.
F-E in Spanish.
Yes. I'm pagan. I don't belong to any religion at the moment.
Okay. For those who wonder about me, I'm an alchemist. When my memories were activated, I had been Christian up to that point, and it was like a switch flipped off. I just no longer believed it. Alchemy is not really a religion, it's more of a practice, and it has to do with the marriage of the masculine and feminine in your own self. It's, you know, how you have times you want to be passive and times you want to be aggressive, and they fight with each other. It's about marrying the two into someone who is healthy instead of someone that's constantly fighting. And it seemed appropriate since I had altars. And that's the technique I've been using to deal with my altars. I've been using the psi abilities to go into trance, pull in a couple of altars at a time. And you're dealing with separate people, right? They're separate people in your own head. But up till that point, you're not really talking to each other because you don't share memory. And so you pull them out of whatever you want to call out there. And you're like sitting on a bench next to each other. And you slowly merge into one. Now, it's not always a good glue job. So sometimes that identity is still there. And so it's more like, have you done jigsaw puzzles? The cardboard puzzles where that there are cut in pieces and you put them together.
Ah, yes.
It's more like that, where that the pieces can still come apart, but you can put them together next to each other, and then they sort of blend together. That's what my integration is like, is we are sharing memories, and when one of us is active, we all share the memory. So there's less missing time. I'm more aware of what I'm doing rather than, okay, this piece is in charge, so there's no memory for the rest. You know, I was having half my day was missing time. and now it's more like an hour or two. So I've reintegrated 32 altars. So I have a chunk of 32 jigsaw puzzle pieces stuck together. And yeah, there's a few holes because there are ones that should have been in there that aren't yet. But as I find them, they will be shoved in. And once they break you into mind fragments, you're never going to be whole again.
Yeah.
Not in this incarnation. You can't be. There's no way to fix it. And they did it to you on purpose. So it's one of those things you have to just, okay, the mirror's been broken. You have to glue the pieces back together as best you can and know that it's never going to be perfect again.
Agreed.
But you don't have to tolerate the missing time. So my thing was I wanted to know what I was doing. I didn't want the missing time. I wanted to know who I was, what I was doing, what I was used for. And I'm doing the work to do it. And when they activated me and my faith was shut off, I don't worship anything. I acknowledge that there is a creator of all that is. So I'm not an atheist. I do believe something created us all.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm not sitting in a church praying. I'm not. Part of me misses having faith. It would be nice to be able to just sit in church with my family and feel like I belong. But that part's gone. Man, I'm getting sappy on you now.
Oh.
You weren't brought up in the Catholic Church then?
Yes, in Spain, it's really common that you raise your child as a Catholic, or Christian. So I did it's called communion or communion, and you get dressed in a white dress when you're 10 years old, and there's a celebration, and you supposed to become, that. So I when I was about 12 or around that age, it's when I became a pagan. I stopped being Christian.
Okay. Yeah, I raised my kids Episcopalian, which is Anglican, Church of England. And they went through, well, they had to be baptized when we converted, and they went through confirmation and then First Communion. And they were supposed to wear white for confirmation. So, yeah, they made me go through confirmation. It was really different, but yeah, after that they put me through 104 exorcisms. Because I had altars. They thought they were demons. That's a very common misunderstanding in Christianity. Yes. Anything they can't explain is a demon. and one or two exorcisms I can see, but past that, it's spiritual abuse, just like satanic ritual abuses. And so I come to these groups, and my abuse was at the hands of Christians. And so it's like, I can't talk to them. They think I'm the devil. So I hope you are never subjected to that.
No, fortunately.
So one or the other is bad enough but to be subjected to both is outrageous.
Yes.
So do you have a website?
Yes, it's marinaseren.com.
Okay. What can people expect on there?
A blog about my experiences, some of my information, a little bit of my story, a gallery of pictures of abduction marks, UFO sightings, and also some drawings that I did about 18 countries. And also a place where they can see what kind of services I offer.
What kind of services do you offer?
Energetic readings, spiritual coaching, and like one-to-one conversations.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that you offered any. So I know that you've done a couple of episodes on my network with Darrell Neely. He's trying to bring you on as a full host. That's for the audience, that's Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And we're still available on lots of different mirror sites, even though our main website is down. That's where this show will be seen in about a week. I've switched to pre-recording because my voice was affected by my surgery in December. Oh. And I can't talk for longer than a couple of hours a day. And it's, I can't get enough power behind it to overcome other people. So it's now just me and my guest because I just can't. So I'm adapting to decreased abilities, which is normal for my age. It's not like I'm attacked or weird or anything like that. It's people tend to slow down as they approach 70, and I'm getting there. So yeah, a lot of young people are like, oh, well, you know, if you did this and this and this and this and this, you wouldn't have that problem. Well, you know, not everyone gets to be my age. So I'm grateful I'm here and that I make sense when I talk and that people want to listen to me. So I used to be young and healthy. I've lived my life several times over, here and out there. So, you know. Okay. What do you want to talk about for the last 20 minutes? What do you want people to think about after this?
Well, I have many topics of conversation, but I really can't choose specifically one to talk about, because it also depends on you, what you want to discuss with me. So
Okay. So overview. You're a Zeta hybrid.
well, I'm not a Zeta hybrid, but in the SSP, one of my bodies was hybridized with Zeta DNA.
Okay. So
This body here is Anunnaki hybrid.
that's what you look like, is Anunnaki hybrid. Yeah. Well, Jahami. Anunnaki is more or less ET. I would have been Anunnaki hybrid if they had left me alone. But they added Draco to that because they wanted more psi-ability. So you have the remote viewing, you have the telepathy, you can channel. What do you have other abilities?
Yes, I can use my hands to heal. I mean, not exactly healing as to like disease, but pain, for instances, energetic blockages. And also I am a psychic medium, so I hear information like telepathically. It's different from telepathy though, because it's more like intuition, like reading the energy of people, like their aura. And then I've also have really interesting experiences with synchronicity. Like I communicate sometimes with my higher mind with synchronicity, and also influence the weather. I can do it.
What have you done with the weather?
Cause electric storms and snowstorms with the help of other beings, of course, because that's a lot of energy.
Okay. Do your moods affect the weather?
My moves.
Mood.
My mood. Okay.
MOOD.
My mood, yeah, sometimes it affects the weather, especially when there's a lot of emotional charge.
Okay. Do other people feel you?
Yes.
I know I can. Sometimes when I wake up, my partner will feel it even though he's downstairs. But we've been together for 21 years.
Oh, well.
So, yeah. What do you like to do when you're not on one of these programs?
I like to read. I like to sing, to write music or songs. I like also acting, but it's more of a hobby. And I love science, like physics.
Which part of physics do you like?
quantum physics, electromagnetism the most.
Okay. That's what I was taught in Shula, was electric universe and quantum mechanics. They said that relativity was wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
And several of the points that they made, I've talked about in prior interviews, that he should have kept the ether constant, and that the speed of light is not a constant, especially at higher velocities, and that gravity is a function of magnetism, not mass.
Yes, I agree. It's the curvature of electromagnetic fields.
Yeah, it's a function of magnetism. The magnetism half of electromagnetics rather than mass so much. And that's why.
Yeah, because really mass is empty, you know. It's all about the electromagnetic field of the atom.
Yeah. Yeah. That people who haven't looked into quantum mechanics should, because it gives you a completely different view of reality than what you get from Newtonian physics.
Great.
And I took physics, engineering physics on Earth in the 1980s.
That's cool.
Whenever we finished up the last semester of it, the professor was trying to interest us into physics as a major. And so he spent a class session the last week talking about the progress that was being made then. And this is 40 years ago. So I'm sure they've made much more progress since then. But he knew at the time that I was religious, and he was staring right at me, and he says, you know, physics has crawled its way up the face of the mountain, only to find that when they got there, the mystics had already beaten them to it. And I was a microbiology chemistry major. So, yeah, I was pre-med. I wanted to be a pediatrician for children with endocrine diseases. And I came down with lupus. And at that time, lupus was considered a fatal disease. And they kicked me out. They said that they were not going to waste a pre-med slot on someone who was going to die right after graduation. And all these years later, I'm still here.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I had calculus and chemistry and engineering physics, and you know, so I get frustrated when I start talking about physics and people throw religion at me. I get frustrated when I'm talking about 3D physical extraterrestrials who are basically people, and I get told that they're demons. In my comments from the public on my YouTube, demon is the most common word. And I have used that to filter. If they use the word demon, it gets filtered out. It doesn't even get accepted, because I am so tired of it. When you're when you're in space, if it's in a physical body and it talks, whether it talks with its mouth or it talks telepathically, if it talks and it's in a physical body, it's a person. It's not a spirit. I mean, they're just as real as we are, and they are just as physical as lions, tigers, and bears. And just like lions, tigers, and bears, some of them are carnivores. You know, some of them do eat us, but does that necessarily mean they're evil? Objectively, sure, I don't want to be eaten. I don't want to be somebody's dinner. But at the same time, I eat chicken, I eat fish, I eat pork. I don't usually eat beef, I'm allergic to it. But, you know, I'm an omnivore. That's what I eat to keep my body healthy. That's what they eat to keep their body healthy. Does that mean they're evil because they do? Or does it just mean they're dangerous? Dangerous does not mean evil. Now, you can't be a really peaceful person unless you have the potential to be dangerous. It's the controlling of that potential to be dangerous that makes you peaceful. Otherwise, you're just harmless, which is a whole nother ball of wax. Harmless people get taken advantage of. Harmless people get used. Harmless people get killed. That's the truth of the matter.
That's true.
So you want to be someone who can take care of yourself, but you also want to be able to live among others. So that's peaceful, but not harmless. And the people out in space, the extraterrestrials, who may or may not look like us. You know, the Shahami look like us, sort of. Some of the other species out there look like us. Some of them really look like us, but others don't. Others don't look like us at all. And you would look at them and think that's a rock, but it talks. You know, that's a blob of gas, but it talks. So it's a person. You have to open your mind to the possibility that there is more. And just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad.
Right.
And that's the last conference I went to. The main speaker called me a demon because I said that extraterrestrials were just like lions, tigers, and bears, that they were physical beings that talk. That we have to, at some point, understand that not everything's going to look like us.
Yes, I agree.
And he decided I was a demon because I said that. This is the crap that is out there. So, do you have we've got 5 minutes left. Do you have a regular time for your show with Darrell?
No, not yet, because I don't know even what time what is going to be the time for my classes,
Okay.
and of the course, so I haven't checked it out yet.
Okay. So you're still going to college? or
It's
university?
it's similar to university, but it's a higher grade.
Okay. Well, do you have any closing words?
Yeah, sure. Well, I hope that I hope that in the future I get more memories about my SSP experiences. Of course, as you can expect, I am 21 years old, so I still don't have all of the pieces of the puzzle of my personal experience. But they will come, more of them will come. I have a general idea of what are the things that I've been into, but of course that I know that more information will come as I move forward in my life. So I hope that at least this contribution of my information helps in disclosure. And of course, I'm really grateful that you have me here as your guest today, Benny.
Well, thank you for coming. And thank you everyone for listening.